on to the next story. Let's talk about another Nigerian, specifically Charlie Boy. Now, I hate, loathe, could go so far as to say detest these stances where we do men versus women when it comes to assault. Look, anyone can be assaulted. It is a crime, and the people who commit these crimes need to pay for their actions. But sometimes the way that men talk about their assault stories is also very interesting from what women say when they were assaulted. And let's talk about Charlie Boy. Now, Charlie Boy, a Nigerian singer and activist, has been speaking about his experiences sexually. Now, he has a very interesting story. We'll talk about that in a bit. But right now, what we're focusing on is a revelation that he gave on Duke Rants, the podcast. He said that at around 10 years old, he was sexually assaulted by his nanny. He went on to say that the mother found out and she was very, very angry. But according to him, and I quote, he says, "I didn't feel raped at that age. I actually enjoyed it because I didn't know what was going on. But it felt good. My mother drove her away, and that's where it ended." So according to him, he didn't take it as a victim story. He felt more like, I really like this. I enjoy it. He didn't know, as a child at 10 years old, he didn't know what was happening to him. He didn't know the extent to which it was happening. He just knew that he liked it. And that's such an interesting way of looking at it. But he was 10, like he was a kid. What did he know? He actually continued to say that it was after this particular interaction that he ended up becoming a lot more sexually active. He says that at the age of 12, he had already contracted a sexually transmitted disease. Specifically, he had contracted gonorrhea. And he used to go to brothels to pay for sexual intercourse. I'm like, a 12-year-old boy going to a brothel to pay for some nookie? That's intense. He said that he was introduced even more to sex by his younger brothers at the age of 15 and 16, when the families would come to the house with their daughters, and unfortunately for the daughters, the cousins would end up sleeping with them. And this became a huge, huge deal when his father actually called him and asked him, "Do you know these women? Like, have you had intercourse with your cousins?" And he said yes. And the father continued to tell him that, yeah, one of them is actually pregnant and you could be the father. And obviously he says that he completely denied it and he wanted nothing to do with it. But the reality of matters is, at the age of 17 years old, he had actually caused someone to be pregnant, and he ended up becoming a father at the age of 17, which is such an intense story. Like, if you really think about it, this nanny assaulted him, and then he ended up becoming sexually active because of it. At 12, he got gonorrhea and he used to go to brothels. Like, that's such an intense story. If you really think about it, that's a story of trauma. And I hope and pray that he has seen someone about it, he's spoken to someone about it, but he seems to speak about it from a point of like, I'm okay, I'm not a victim. And it is intense to really think about it. Look, if anyone tries anything that is uncomfortable for you, please speak to an adult that you trust and tell them that this is happening to you, so that they can be able to better sort it out. Because sexual assault happens all the time with nannies, especially. Like, you hear all these stories, and it breaks my heart to think that a nanny would look at a 10-year-old boy and think, yeah, it's wild how people think, you know. So sorry, Charlie. We hope that you have recovered from this, and we hope that you have found some sort of resolve for this very traumatic situation. Now let's